Class 11th. Welcome to the online tutorial sessions for business studies. I am Avnash Lambert, your teacher. Today we are going to start a new chapter which is forms of business organizations. We are going to start the second chapter of your syllabus. Now, there are various types of businesses. In your syllabus there are around 6 types of businesses. Today we are going to start the first one, which is sole proprietorship. Now, sole means only. Sole means single, only. And proprietorship means, proprietor means owner. The ownership. Proprietorship means ownership. What do you mean by proprietor? Owner. Now, sole proprietorship refers to a form of business organization. It is a form of business organization which is owned, managed and controlled. Which is owned, managed and controlled by an individual, by a single individual who is the recipient, who receives, who gets all the profit and bearer of all risk. He is the person who receives all the profit and he is the only one who bears all the risk. So, what do we understand from sole proprietorship? That there is only one person. There is only one person who owns, who occupies everything, who is the owner, and he manages. He is the one who manages each and every activity, and he is the one who controls his company, who controls his business. He is the one who controls his business. And this all is done by a single individual who receives, who is the recipient of profit, and he is the one who bears all the profit. Is that clear? Okay, students. Now let's come to the also known as, the sole proprietorship is also known as sole trader. It could be asked as sole trader or individual proprietorship. That is also the same thing as sole proprietorship or individual entrepreneurship. Individual entrepreneurship, it also means sole proprietorship. Is that clear? Now let's come to the next thing. It is the oldest and simplest form of business. It is the most oldest and the simplest form of business. There are no complications in this kind of business. For example, you have seen in your localities, in your colonies, that there are certain beauty parlors. There are certain small scale activities like running a retail shop in your locality. You must have seen in your colonies that there are some sort of retail shop where you can buy the day-to-day goods which are required for the day-to-day services. And beauty parlor. These two are the best examples for the sole proprietorship. So is that clear? What is sole proprietorship? Now next come to the next topic. Friends, let's start with the features of sole proprietorship. What are the characteristics? What constitutes the sole proprietorship or sole trader? Now, first feature is formation or closure. The first and the foremost thing of any business is the formation, how it is formed. And the last thing is the closure, how can we close our business. Now, it is very easy, mark it, it is very easy to start as no legal formalities are required to start it. It is the most easiest and simplest, and it is very easy to start. Why? Because no legal formalities are required. You don't need any legal formalities. But in some cases, you may need the license. You may need the license, but in most of the cases, there are no legal formalities. You don't need to get it registered. You can start it on your own. Now, there are no separate law that governs sole proprietorship. In our constitution, there is no separate law for the sole proprietorship. That is why it is the most easiest and simplest form of the business because it has no legal formalities. Is that clear? There is no legal formalities and there is no separate law that governs the sole proprietorship. The next one is, it is easy to dissolve. Let's talk about the closure of the sole proprietorship. It is very easy to dissolve. Dissolve means in the language of business, when it comes to commerce, you call it the closing of a company as dissolve or closure of the company. So it is easy to dissolve when the sole proprietor or sole trader wants it to be. If I am the sole proprietor and I want to close my business activities, I want to stop my business now, so I will just put it a lock on my door of the business where I sit, where is my business, where I run my business activities. I just put a lock and I will say that it's been closed forever. So it is very easy to dissolve also. It depends on the mind of the will of the sole trader or sole proprietor. So is that clear? It is very easy and it is very easy to close our business because it has no legal formalities and there is no separate law that governs the sole proprietorship. Is that clear? Okay. Let's come to the second feature, which is control. One is control. It is a one-man show. One-man show, it means it is run by a single individual. It is a one-man show. Right to run business and to make all the decisions. He has the right to run business and to make all the decisions lies absolutely with the sole trader. He is the one who decides what to do, what planning to do, how to manage, how to organize, how to control and how to do the business activities. All the activities are done according to that individual. So that individual has got all the control. He's got everything. He is the one who decides what will be done in his business and it's a one-man show. Carries out plans without any interference. The sole proprietor carries out the plans. He is the one who makes the plan and he is the one who carries out the plan and there is no one who can interfere him. He is the owner. He is the one who is ruling. So he carries out plans without any interference. There is nobody who can interfere. Is that clear? Now let's come to the next feature, which is liability. First of all, what is liability? Liability means that someone or that individual is liable to pay his debts. Whatever amount he has taken from someone, he is liable to pay him. So, liability. The liability of the owner is unlimited. He is the one who is going to pay all his debts. It means that sole trader is personally liable for payment of debts if assets of the business are not sufficient to meet all the debts. Suppose in his business, in his retail shop, suppose he has taken debt, he has taken some loan and he is not able to give that interest rate and he is not able to pay his debt. So in that case, all the assets, whatever assets he has in his retail store, that will be sold. And if still those assets are not completed, are not enough for the debt, so his personal property will also be taken away from him. Suppose if I have taken loan of 10 lakhs and I am not able to repay it, then my assets of my business will be taken away from me, and if necessary, if my assets are not sufficient, my house's assets and my personal things will also be taken away from me just to pay the debts. So the owner liability, the owner's liability is unlimited. I am the one, or the owner is the one who is liable to pay all his debts, and if his assets are not sufficient to meet his debts, his personal property may be sold. Is that clear? His personal property will be sold. Next one is sole risk bearer. It means he is the sole owner who is responsible for the business affairs. It means he is the one who has to bear all the risk. He is responsible for whether he is having risk, whether he is having losses, or he is having the profits. He is the one who is responsible for all the business activities. Anything which is happening in his business, he is the one who is responsible. Now, any risk of failure of business is borne all alone. If there is failure in his business, he is the one who has to bear all alone. Nobody is going to help him. He has to bear all alone. And what if the business is successful? He is the one who is going to receive all the profit. He is not going to share it with anyone. He will receive all the profit all alone. All the profit goes to him. Now let's come to the next one. Which is no separate entity. For example, let's understand the legal separate entity means. It means suppose Reliance and Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Both are different things. One is the owner and one is the business. Both have different legal entities. If the company has taken loan, the loan has been taken in the name of Reliance, then the loan will be paid by the company, not by Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Is that clear? And if Mr. Mukesh Ambani has taken the loan, he is liable to pay the loan, not the Reliance company. Is that clear? Now, under the sole proprietorship, he has no legal existence. Means in the eyes of law, no distinction is made between proprietor and firm. There is no difference made between the owner and the firm. So, owner is responsible for each and everything. Suppose he is having losses and he has to pay the debts. Then in that case, owner is liable to pay the debt. Is that clear? So, owner is responsible. Means no separate entity. The last one, lack of business continuity. It means that the sole proprietorship don't run for a longer period. The continuity is a big question mark here. Most of the business, sole proprietorship business runs for a smaller period of time, not for a longer term. So why does that happen? Due to the death of the owner or physical ailment or insolvency of the proprietor. Insolvency means he has no more assets, he has no more capital, so that he cannot pay his debts and he become insolvent. So due to these things, death, physical ailment and the insolvency of the proprietor, it has a direct effect on the business. It affects the business directly. That is closure of the business. The business is shut down. So due to these things, the business has the closure. So today we understood about the sole proprietorship, which means it's a form of business which is owned, managed and controlled by an individual who is the recipient of all the profit and bearer of all loss. It is also known as sole trader, individual proprietorship and individual entrepreneurship. It is the oldest and simplest form of business. For example, beauty parlors and small scale activities running a retail shop in our locality. There are certain features which is formation and closure. It is the easiest to start because no legal formalities are required and there is no separate law that governs the sole proprietorship, and so does the closure. To dissolve when sole trader wants it to dissolve. Control. It's a one-man show. He has the right to run a business and make all the decisions. Nobody is going to interrupt him. The next one was liability. The liability of an owner is unlimited. It means if his assets of business are not sufficient to meet all his debt, personal properties are going to be sold. Now next one is sole risk bearer. It means he is the one who is responsible for all the activities happening in his business affairs. Any risk will be bear by him, all the profit will be received by him. No separate legal entity. It means there is no distinction made between the owner and the proprietor and the firm. Means owner is responsible in case of losses. So lack of business continuity, it means due to the death, physical ailment and insolvency of the proprietor, it affects the business directly, that is closure of the business. So that's all for today's video. I hope you have understood sole proprietorship, and in the next video we are going to learn about the merits and demerits of sole proprietorship. So that's all for this video.